Hello, everybody. Recording live from somewhere. This is Zach Couples with episode 8 of the Movement Debrief, where we are going to talk about. What the hell are we talking about today? Sorry, I'm going a little bit crazy right now because my Wi Fi is not working. But today we are going to talk about the art of the debrief, what that is, and why that's important, and we'll talk about achieving some semblance of work life balance. Before we dive into that, did you guys check out my blog that I put out on Monday? It was a fun one. We talked about a case study that I did that was purely online. This was part of my movement consultation service. So, yeah, that was a lot of fun, presented with its own challenges, and kind of outlined exactly what I did with this person, and she ended up having a really good outcome. So go ahead and check that out. I hope everyone had a great 4th of July weekend. Mine was spectacular. I hiked a lot, and I have the blisters to prove it. Yeah, man, I tell you what, Zion National Park, if you guys have not been there, go there. Um, it was just great. But that's a side note. That's all the housekeeping I have. Let's debrief, shall we? So, I don't have much clinical stuff this week because I had Monday and Tuesday off, and today was my first day at the job, so there wasn't a whole lot of reflecting to do in that regard. And I got out late, so I didn't have time to reflect, but that's okay. Let's talk about the debrief. What is a debrief? So the definition of a debrief is basically, it's a term that I've gotten from military type training. So if you guys are familiar with Jocko Willink, author of Extreme Ownership and The Way of the Warrior Kid, which are both fascinating books, please read them yesterday. Extreme Ownership was life-changing for me, and there's one quote in The Way of the Warrior Kid, which it's a children's book, but it's like this quote just like really struck a chord for me, and it was about how motivation waxes and wanes, but as long as you have discipline, that's what's the one thing that can consistently carry you through. So get those books. But he is the one who kind of really exposed me to the concept of a debrief, and what that is basically reviewing what occurred in terms of the mission or the event that you had done, reviewing what worked, reviewing what didn't, and devising an action plan going forward so you don't make those mistakes again. So it's a way of recapping and reviewing and reflecting, which obviously that's exactly what the movement debrief is about reflection. So the concept of a debrief is something that I've been incorporating a lot more with my patients and my clients and of all types, and as well as myself, because I think being able to recap things and review things helps you course correct in the future, either staying on that path or veering off on a different path, or just altering your path in such a manner that you get better at what you're doing. And so the keys to my debriefs are very straightforward. The first thing that I do, and I'll give you guys examples of doing this with patients and with some of my online clients, is the recap. And so if we go with, say, my online clients first, so I do this with all of my mentees that I work with, or some of the people that I work with from movement consultation side of things, or training aspect, is we recap the session. And so what that looks like is I will send these guys bullet points of, look, here were the big takeaways. Here were the big takeaways of what you needed to get from that session, or what I got from that session, as a means of reflecting on, okay, what's the most important thing out of this? So the recap is step one. For a physical therapy client or a personal training client, what your debrief would look like would be, hey, here's what we accomplished in this session, and here's where you are doing well, and here's where you need to improve upon, right? So it's just recapping what what happened. And so I'll give you an example today. I saw a young woman, she's a 15-year-old basketball player, which I was beyond excited to have a basketball player in this town because I love working with basketball players. And she was having knee pain. And we gave her one activity of what she needed to do, which she did very well at. And in that case, when we did our debrief, there were a couple things that I think she could have done better at, right? So I had her review the exercise program and all that, like I had mentioned before, in terms of how I coach the exercises. And I said, look, you are doing this well with the heel contact as an example. I need you to exhale a bit more forcefully, and we need you to get a little bit better with landing mechanics. That's kind of what we're progressing to, right? So I recapped all the things that we did and gave her the goods and the areas to improve upon. So that's the recap portion of the debrief. Once I've given the individual the relevant information that we've gotten from a session, the next step is establishing them a goal of some sort. So what, from that recap, are these individuals supposed to work on next? And so for my basketball girl, her goal was to be, and I say this to all my patients, I need you to be the black belt of that by the time I see you next. Because if you do that, then that's going to get these changes. And so that's our goal, get them the black belt. If it's a online client, if it's a movement consultation, it would be the same thing, become the black belt of this. What I'm doing from a goal standpoint for my mentees, where it's a little bit different and we're working on learning concepts, is whatever topic we covered in our mentoring session, the goal for that individual is to say, I need you to be the black belt of this topic that we talked about, right? So achieving mastery in a particular task that's going to get them to whatever it is their end goal is, whether that's playing basketball without pain, whether that's working at a desk without pain, or whether that's being really good at your job and learning something material-wise. So have that goal in mind. So that's step 2 of how I debrief people. So we have recap, we have goal. The last step, and probably the most important step, is the action plan. Because we kind of establish where they're at now with the recap. We establish kind of where they need to be with the goal, and the action plan is what fills in the gap between those two. So it gives them a course that they need to follow in order to be successful. And so let's go with my basketball player. What's her action plan? Her action plan is to do this activity before games or before practice, and at least ideally twice a day, and do it in such a way that she will be successful with it. And I ask this question with all of my patients: does that seem reasonable? That's something I got from Tim Ferriss, and rarely is someone going to tell you that you're being unreasonable. And I found that that's a great way to establish buy-in. And I'd say 90+% of my individuals, given what I give them, follow through. And if they don't, then I adjust that. So we adjust the action plan in such a manner that they can be successful. And whether that's doing things less, or giving less exercises, or taking one breath, whatever it takes to have them accomplish something, that's what you do for your action plan. And the same thing would be for my online clients. Where it might be a little bit different from an action plan standpoint is when I'm working with mentees on learning a concept. And so say the concept I'm trying to get someone to understand is biomechanics of the rib cage. Well, my action plan in that case would be, okay, you need to understand this. I might give them 3 or 4 resources that they need to review that are outside of what we did from the discussion. I want them to review some of the concepts that we established in our discussion via the recap. And then the big action plan is, over X amount of period of time, I want you to summarize everything that we did in a manner, in your own words, right? because it is when you perform that type of action and you are essentially teaching and not regurgitating, but formulating all that you've garnered from those resources into what you know, that's how we can reach that goal of understanding and knowledge. So that's how I incorporate the debrief, finishing it, of course, with any questions and allowing for idiosyncratic flexibility. So to recap, to debrief the debrief, how about that? You have a recap, you have a goal, and you devise an action plan. You do that until the next session, see what changed, then you start over again and you continue to debrief, reflect, course correct along the way until you meet your goal and get where you need to be. So that's the art of the debrief from Zach Couples, or at least how I'm doing it. I will debrief on my ability to debrief, of course, and change that as needed. The other thing, this was a big thing and a big realization I had this weekend on my long time off, and that's work-life balance. So, work-life balance. This is something I have struggled with quite a bit because I'm sure, as you guys can tell, based on me having a full-time job, writing crazy blog posts, doing this every Wednesday, that I'm kind of a workaholic. And you would be correct about that. And I had a couple instances this weekend where I think my balance, or at least I was brought aware of my balance not being balanced. And so the first one was regarding a meal, right? So, and I'll talk about this on the blog at some point, but over the past 3 months, I've been doing a lot of work on my body composition and body fat, and I've been taking that very seriously. Bill Hartman, my daddy-o, BillHartman.net, he kind of inspired me with his radical transformation that he made, where he'd lost like 37 pounds over 5 or 6 months and just is absolutely shredded. And it's like, you know what? I must have the genetics to do that as well. And so over the last 3 months, I've been basically going through a fairly aggressive fat loss program. And not where I want to be yet, but I've been pretty successful. I still can't see my abs all the way, and that's kind of like the goal, right? And so over that 3 months time period, how much weight have I dropped? I think I've dropped like 27 pounds. Yeah, just maybe a little over 27, 28 pounds. And I'm finally under 10% body fat for like the first time ever. So it's been awesome. It's been a journey. But when you have a goal like that, there are certain sacrifices you have to make. And so, like, I try not to eat out that much, as an example, or I go to sleep at a regular basis, and I mean, just a lot of things that you need to do in order to meet that type of goal. And this weekend, so I got a few friends here and some roommates at where I'm staying in this travel gig. And one of my roommates was having a bunch of very dear friends over, and they were going to have a big meal. And I didn't. I was just kind of, doing my own thing and staying under my routine. And I was, I had my last meal of the day because I try to cap my meal at a certain time period and eat in a certain window for, a multitude of reasons. Like I said, once I've completed my transformation to my liking, I'll write about. And he was like, "Hey, are you going to join us?" And I said, I can't because, I've already finished my meal window. And it's like, so you can't eat late. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I tried to explain to him, and he's like, does that make sense? He's like, no. And I was like, damn, okay. And as soon as that happened, there was just this moment in my mind where I remember, I don't know if you guys have done the precision nutrition certification thing, but that's something I did this past month or past summer, past couple months. And like John Berardi talks about stratifying clients into different levels, and there's level 3 clients, and these are individuals who like basically don't ask, just like do it, and make a lot of sacrifices along the way to do so, and that can be social isolation among these other things in order to achieve their end desired goal, which is typically very low body fat percentage. And when that happened, I realized, like, damn, I'm there, you know, and it was kind of like, shit, why am I doing this? You know, I almost second guessed myself for a minute. And like in that regard, I think if we pursue goals too far in any direction, and that's health, performance, that's fat loss, that's family, that's anything, sacrifices have to be made, and there's a law of diminishing returns with some of that, and in some cases these sacrifices are detrimental to your health. There's been many instances in which, because of this transformation, I have said no to certain social situations, and there's no doubt that if you look at the research of social engagement, social interaction, like there's a myriad of health benefits from that. And even though pursuing aggressive fat loss in this case may be giving me health benefits, and it definitely has, there's been health benefits that I've had to sacrifice with that too, and that was that instance. And it really kind of hit me hard, really did. And so I did end up having the meal that night, and I was glad I did, because we had a phenomenal time. And you know, I was definitely better off for that. I won't tell you what I did afterwards to offset that meal, but it wasn't vomiting or anything like that, guys. Come on, get real. But I'll tell you what I did. I did a 30-hour fast, and tell you what, I felt great afterwards. So there's something to this fasting, I'm telling you. But yeah, we just kind of got to prioritize, you know, that balance. The other piece that kind of pushed me to that, and I will summarize all this, of course, was when I hiked Zion National Park this weekend. You know, obviously, like I said, I'm a workaholic, and to take that time out and just see the wonders that is Zion, which if you guys haven't gone, please go. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, we are not our job. We are not our paycheck. We are not our house. We are not our car. We are not all these things. Like, I'm not my job, even though I love my job. And I think that was probably the first time that I've ever realized that. There's just so much more to life than just that. And what we are is the sum of our actions and our decisions and our goals. And we have to be very clear about those are the things, not our titles, not our possessions, not our relationships or the people we know, but just those decisions, those actions, those things we value. That's what makes us who we are, and that's how we can stratify and achieve some semblance of balance in life that's meaningful to us. And that's, like, a life of balance doesn't necessarily mean that you work 50% of the time and then you're doing fun 50% of the time. I'm not talking about that. Like, I think you can have imbalances within that balance. There's some individuals who really like their jobs, and maybe they don't have a family like me, but yeah, we do hiking. And so maybe my ratios are, I'm 60% work, 20% play, 30% health, whatever. And for someone else, it might be different, where it's maybe they are a family person and maybe work is 40% that, 50% family and then 20% something else. But you have to understand what you value in life and what is meaningful to you, and make sure your actions follow those values accordingly. And I think we'll call that it for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me on episode 8 of the Debrief, a little bit different one, but I thought it was quite fun. I have fun, at least, whatever. Apologize for the technical difficulties. I know that people on YouTube Live are not getting this, but you Facebookers are where it's at. Please check out my blog again, ZachCouples.com. I put out a new case report this week on sitting and pain. Check it out, man. I went through every single detail of what I do with my online client, and this client in particular. You can also sign up for services there if you want to go through something like that. Also, I have a newsletter. You can get a free acute to chronic workload calculator if you sign up for it. And you'll get a lot of cool updates, and you'll get things ahead of people that would get it on Facebook or YouTube or anywhere else that you follow me. So sign up for that. Otherwise, you can follow me on Facebook /ZCouples. Twitter handle is @ZCouples. That IG, yo, Zach, ZAC Couples. I put hiking pictures and stuff like that on there too, so you can see the cool stuff that I'm doing. Or just follow me on YouTube. Just search Zach Couples at YouTube. You'll find me. All right, guys. Otherwise, keep it real, but not to the extent where things go wrong. Stay classy, and we'll chat soon.